Health is wealth, and there is no health without mental health. These are the two phrases that we learned in understanding the self in our final lesson. It means that as growing adults, we need to take care of ourselves in our mental health. But sometimes, in our college life, things are just hard. And how do we cope with these challenges and with our resiliency as growing adults? We Viscans have different ways and thoughts on how we take care of our health. And in this documentary, we try to discover these ideas. We invited three VSU students as we asked them three questions about their thoughts on taking care of oneself. The first question is, when do you think optimism becomes toxic?
I think that some people opt for optimism to escape some problems that they have instead of actually solving those problems. Because for me, optimism should also come with the drive to be able to solve your problems or any inconvenience that you're experiencing. Some people just act optimistic. Like for example, an exam, they say something along the lines of, "Oh, okay raw, di ba na to kinahanglan But when they actually took the exam and they were optimistic, it was a pretty hard exam. They were not able to answer anything. They didn't do anything to try to solve the problem. They just tried to probably ease the guilt that they feel for not studying or something.
For me, optimism or being an optimistic is a good thing, but sometimes or the possible ways that optimism can be toxic is that we are blinded by the possible scenarios or possible results of what do we tend to do. So for me, to balance it is important to balance the optimism and the realistic understanding of the situations.
Optimism becomes toxic if the situation is already that bad. There is no such thing as a good optimism or a positive way to think that optimism is beneficial if we know that the situation is bad already or there is no possible way to make the situation good.
And the second question is, do you think someone can develop resilience without being emotionally or mentally mature?
I think that if a person breaks easily, is prone to being influenced by the problems around them, e.g. mentally or emotionally immature persons, I don't think that it would be easy for them, if possible at all, to be resilient in situations. Granted, they do have a right to feel that way because sometimes there are things that really break us. But only after the realization that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger can the emotionally immature or mentally immature person become mature or gets maturity and is able to become resilient.
Resilience often involves learning from experience and by adapting it. And somehow, emotionally and mentally matured enhances resiliency. And some level of resiliency can still develop even though without having a full maturity.
One cannot develop resiliency if they are not mentally and emotionally mature. Because if you want to be resilient, you need to prepare your brain and you need to control your emotions. Otherwise, you'd be labeled as a idiot for acting resilient even though you cannot control your emotions or your mentality is bad or immature.
So, for the last question, is there any way you can turn this stress or negative stress into positive stress?
I don't think that there is such a thing as positive stress, but there is such a thing as meaningful stress. When we do things that give us stress and we think that we think that the things that we're doing is leading to something, or it has a meaning in our lives in the future, and I think that that would be the quote unquote positive way of looking at things. Going back to my answer to the question about optimism, I think that that question ties well with the previous question, that optimism with the drive to do something about your life or the situation, that is the combination that you would like to have. And while stress comes in everything that we do, especially when we're forced into that situation or we set a deadline for ourselves, I think that we need to think about it as giving meaning to the existence that we have. I think that suffering gives meaning to the existence that we have, as long as that suffering is something that we willingly chose to do. And even if it is something that was forced upon us, we can still somehow find a meaning to all of it after we have seen the fruit that it had bore.
In turning the negative stress into positive stress, it is by reframing your challenges into opportunities. It is all about shifting the perspective or shifting your perspective of what you are facing. Example, if you are feeling it your subject or core subject, rather, you may also feel that you are totally failed, but somehow you can still think of some possible ways or some things that you are being able to achieve too. It's not about seeing the one side, because as what the famous phrase said, it is always think outside the box.
There is a way to turn negative stress or distress into positive stress. For example, I failed in mathematics. Instead of focusing on that failure na I'd think, okay, this is bad, I won't pass, I cannot do it. Instead, I would think na I did not pass, maybe I should do something so that I can pass in the next time or in another time or another chance to retake that exam. So instead of just focusing on the negative stress to somehow control yourself, why not use that negative stress as a fuel to create something better out of it?
So, as you have watched earlier, our fellow Viscon student have stated that, yeah, it's much preferable to be optimistic in life, but rather we have also to be realistic, because there are some things that we really have to be aware of things that's happening to our life, rather than ignoring and making our own fantasies. They also stated varying opinions about our struggles as VSC students and how it shapes us as capable individuals. The selected Viscon students were also aware of the importance of emotional maturity to resilience, but also disagreed on the synonymity of the two. To wrap our documentary, I would like to state that we are an individual and every one of us are unique and has something to contribute to this world. But in a world full of struggles and challenges, one just simply forgets about oneself and neglects its well-being for the sake of accomplishing one's task. Or some are simply forced to forget what makes them unique and beautiful as a person, being stuck as someone they not truly are. It is important for us not to forget ourselves and always make sure we take care of our health. We must always make sure that we love ourselves and nurture ourselves to become better and stronger despite the struggles and the adversaries that we face each day. Because we only have one body, one soul, and it is our responsibility to make sure that we take care of it. We must not forget that health is wealth, and there is no health without mental health. Thank you, that's all. Thanks for watching.